Davis steps under center. Gibson and McClendon behind him. Davis with motion by Richard. Will give the ball to McClendon. He leaps. Oh, he doesn't get in. He fumbled the football. Carolina holds. The game is over. And Carolina has won the game.
Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory.
Left side of the line. Hood standing to Williams' right. Williams gonna throw. One-on-one. Davis has it.
Touchdown! Carolina wins! Carolina is the Coastal Division champion!
Bernard fields it at the 26.
Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio is at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
Connor Barth for the possible win. Snap, spot, kick away, high enough, long enough. It's good! It's good! Carolina has won the game on a 42-yard field goal by freshman Connor Barth. Good gosh, dirty!
Hey guys, and welcome into another edition of Heel Talk Podcast. It's your host Anthony Pagnotta with you guys as always, and the NFL Draft is officially upon us. So we welcomed in a special guest on the phones earlier this afternoon, Russell Brown from Cover1.net, also does some stuff for Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM, as well as some stuff that he's done with ESPN. So make sure that you guys go and check all of that stuff out. But he was on with us earlier today to talk about the Tar Heel prospects that could be going off the board here in day 2 of the draft tonight and day 3 of the draft tomorrow. And we started by asking him about the guy that most people probably think will be the first one off the board, which will be Javonte Williams.
He's got tremendous contact balance. He's 5'10", 220. He's got the lower body flexibility to change direction with ease. And I thought we were going to see him last night. It wouldn't have surprised me if he was the first back off the board. But the way he wins in the short areas of the field with his vision, his overall strength, his aggressiveness, I mean, he will run through guys, and you love seeing that. So the physical runner that he is awesome to see, whether it's, between the tackles or in the open field. Now, he lacks the long speed. He's not going to win anybody over there. He's not going to win the foot race, but he has the play speed, and that's what matters. So I love him as a 3-down back. I like him over Michael Carter. He's my 24th ranked player, my second ranked running back. I think early here, second round, maybe Atlanta, that would be a great fit for him. I think if they consider a running back, which they probably should, and I think with Arthur Smith, that would make a ton of sense for him to maybe be the 35th pick of the draft. Maybe he goes 34th overall to Jets, or even 36th to Miami. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, but I don't think he'll be waiting around for long.
Yeah, no, I really like that fit in Atlanta as well. I definitely think that would be a great landing spot for him. Another guy that I think we're going to see probably, I don't know about early in the second round, but I would be pretty shocked if he gets out of the second round, is Dyami Brown. We've seen him sort of start to climb some of these draft boards, especially over the last couple of weeks. What do you think is behind that climb? And ultimately, what kind of fit do you think that he's going to be in an NFL offense?
Well, I think he's been climbing up boards because of some of the uncertainty with some other receivers in this draft. You look at Terrace Marshall, the leg injury that he suffered in high school. The medical recheck came, and it looked like, maybe he's not fully recovered, or he's having some of the side effects that you have with these type of lower body injuries, especially at a young age. So he's pushed into the second round himself, and I think when you look at maybe a safer pick, Dyami Brown is that guy. So I think he's, the 45th ranked player in this for me. He's technically my 8th ranked receiver, but I love his skill set. One of my favorite players in this draft, and I'll be honest, a lot of my favorite players in this draft come from North Carolina. But yeah, he's a former 4-star recruit. Played 24 or started 24 straight games now, and consecutive seasons for 1,000 yards. And I just love the way he releases off the line of scrimmage. He does it so easily and efficiently, and maybe not as good as Rashad Bateman does, but somewhat in a lighter version and in a similar way. But he wins vertically up the field. I love the way he can attack the middle of the field, and then I love the way he can hit those double moves and, again, get vertical up the field. So there's times when I watch him and I see shades of a Stephon Diggs, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went somewhere in the second round in a similar range of where Stephon Diggs went a few years ago when he came out in that 40 range. And maybe Detroit at 41 makes a lot of sense. Maybe a team like, maybe New England at 46 or even Las Vegas or Arizona could potentially look at a player like him just because they want to surround another receiver or weapon into their offense. But I love his skill set. I think he's going to be probably the second Tar Heel off the board. He might even be the first Tar Heel off the board. Maybe the Jets like him. Again, maybe Philadelphia double down and they go receiver again, so maybe they consider him at 37. But, I love Brown, and I think, like I said, he's the 8th-ranked receiver on my board, but he's a little bit safer. You don't have to worry about the injuries like some of the other guys I mentioned, like Marshall, Rondale Moore as well. So I think that just the safe pick and the overall upside to his game, if you can get him in the right spot, I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, a couple of really good landing spots that you mentioned there for sure with some good young quarterbacks. Yeah. When you move on to Michael Carter, he's a guy that I think is, if somebody really falls in love with him, maybe he sneaks into that second round, but it seems like he'll probably be in that third round. It looks like his stock has kind of plateaued after that Senior Bowl jump. But when you look at him, do you think that he's a guy that, will probably have to be in, a rotation or something early on, but do you think he's a guy that could develop into a lead back or someone down the line?
I don't know if he could be a lead back consistently throughout the course of his career. I mean, again, he could prove me wrong. He could be that player. And I hope he is, because I'm never going to root against a guy, but listed at 5'9", 200 pounds. I think he runs a little bit too far outside at times. He tries to bounce those runs, but again, fluid. He's flexible. We talk about Williams with his flexible lower body. Carter has it as well, and it allows him to change direction with ease, and he shows great burst off his jump cut when he gets upfield. So I love the way he runs so hard between the tackles, and I think he's got a really good wiggle in the open field. So he's going to make defenders miss at times. So I think he'll end up going in the second round. I think he'll surprise a couple of people tonight. And as I look at some teams like, potentially Miami at 50, maybe Javonte Williams is gone when they're on the clock at 36. So when they get to pick 50 in the second round, maybe they consider him. You maybe consider a team like Buffalo at 61, maybe Tampa Bay at 64. So there's going to definitely be some options for him in this draft to go in this second round range. But yeah, compared to some of the other backs, he was definitely like the clear cut number 4 back for me. And I think there's a kind of a gap between the top 3 backs, and then there's Michael Carter, and then there's a gap between Michael Carter and the backs, 5'10" on my ranking system. So he's kind of in his own tier. And I think he's a great day 2 pick. Again, I don't know if he necessarily becomes a true number 1 back. I don't know if he's going to be Saquon Barkley, but I think if you needed him in a pinch and he needed to play a little bit with 20-plus carries in a game, I think he can do it. I don't know if he'll do it all the time. I would definitely want to get a compliment to him. And I think a team like maybe even Arizona at 49, they've got James Conner, they got Chase Edmonds. Michael Carter would make a lot of sense to kind of tie into that offense.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that would be a really solid fit for him.
Yeah.
As well. Give him, a little bit of time to grow in the system. But yeah, no, I think those, again, pretty good landing spots. I'm liking what I'm hearing. Now, this one is going to be interesting. I think this is a guy that you've got to find the right fit for. The only defensive prospect that the Tar Heels have, and it's Chad Surratt. He's a guy that has sort of his stock. I'm not going to say he's falling, because it doesn't seem like he's really falling. He's being passed over, I think, by guys. But it looks like he's going to be on the fringe of being picked tonight on day 2 or go into day 3. When you look at what he brings to the table, is there maybe a certain team that sticks out that he fits well with, or is he just going to have to be a guy that somebody's going to take a risk on and see if he fits their system?
He could be a player that we see tonight. I mean, again, we've got picks 33 through 106, so there's a lot of drafting tonight. That's a good range for him. I mean, I would probably say between probably like picks 80 all the way to 106. I mean, I'm giving you pretty much a 26-team range there, but there's a chance with him. The biggest question mark is just, he doesn't have a ton of experience playing the linebacker position. Remember, in high school, he was a quarterback, and he moves over to the defensive side of the football. Now, granted, he's been incredibly productive. He gets after it, and of the way, he just is always competing. He's always getting after it. Now, I don't necessarily know if I would want him dropping in coverage all the time, because there's definitely times that he's second-guessing, and I think that's okay because you can teach that, you can figure that out, but I think he also understands the coverages that his defense is in. He's a smart player, again, former quarterback, so he understands the offenses that he's playing against, but he also understands the defense that he's in and his role and the responsibilities of the guys around him. So I think in this third-round range, there's a chance he goes. It wouldn't surprise me if we talk more about him tomorrow. And I don't want to say he's going to be a steal, but I think with the size, the athletic ability, there's a lot to work with. And when you get beyond kind of that first tier of linebackers, second tier of linebackers, like guys like Baron Browning, once you get beyond that, I think you get into a player like Surratt here. And at 6'2", 230, might be listed as somewhat undersized for some people, but I think he can play in that overhang role. I think he can, again, play in that box role a little bit. He's going to attack upfield. He's just got to become a little bit more consistent with his angles, more consistent in space a little bit, and a little bit more consistent as a tackler. But I love the aggressiveness, and he gets after it. So we'll see where he goes tonight. If he does go, there's a lot of fits. I mean, the Jets at 87, maybe Cleveland at 90 or 92. It wouldn't surprise me if maybe even a team like Detroit at 102, if they consider a player like him. So he's going to have some landing spots. It's just what kind of run happens, and is there a linebacker run here maybe in the second round that a team that didn't get a linebacker in the second round would go ahead and roll the dice with him in the third round?
I think that there's a couple of good fits for him. I think it's just, he's going to have to come in. Like you said, I think he's a better coverage guy than some of the people were giving him credit for in the pre-draft process. And I think they'll see that, but he hasn't really had to do that much. But he is for a guy that's as small as he is, he's got the strength, and he's just a phenomenal blitz guy that you can use in so many different ways to try to catch some of these offenses off balance. So, when you look at the last guy, it's Daz Newsome, and he's another guy where, the production is there for him, but he just, I think it's because he plays a slot, which we've seen over the last couple of years. Slot guys definitely fall in terms of, the draft. People get infatuated with the guys that they can put on the outside. But you look at the production at Carolina, he had a lot of success. He's a guy that can help you on special teams. He's more than likely going to be a day 3 pick. But when you look at Dan Newsome, what do you think he brings to the table for a team that may be questioning on taking him sometime on day 3?
Well, I hate to – I don't want to throw shade or anything at it, but I was not his biggest fan. I know there were some people that absolutely loved him. I didn't necessarily love him, but he is impressive when you watch the tape just for the simple fact of how shifty he is in the open field. He can create yards easily after the catch. But the biggest concern is just the drops, and he might just be a vertical threat. So I compared him to John Brown, and that was before the pro day and everything else like that. I thought their play styles were similar, and again, Daz Newsome, and I'm talking younger John Brown, pushing it vertically up the field, because that's really what John Brown was in Arizona, just a deep threat, and that's what I think Daz could be maybe for a team like Arizona, and maybe that's where he ends up going. But he didn't test great at the pro day. I mean, a 4.59 40 for a player like that is just, I hate bringing in 40 times, but you hate seeing it. Everything that he did was just below the percentile that you would be a part of, and, the vertical jump of 34 inches isn't bad, but the 3-cone drill of 7.39 is not great by any means. You want to see that be under 7 seconds, especially for a wide receiver, because if it is, that means you're talking hip fluidity. This guy can get in and out of his breaks. And like I said, if he's just a vertical threat, then that might cause him just to be that. So again, though, I like Daz. He's just got to catch the football. I think he's probably going to go in that 5th round range. Again, we'll see. He could go a little bit sooner, and maybe a team falls in love with him. But there's definitely teams that could utilize him, especially in the early portion of the 5th round. Carolina, Detroit. Again, the Jets are picking at 155. So there's a couple of teams there that could be really interested in getting a wide receiver like Daz Newsome to be a complementary piece to maybe receivers 1, 2, or 3 in their offense. It's just really a matter of time. So can he develop into more? Absolutely. It might take 2 to 3 years, but that's why we're talking about him on day 3. He's an intriguing player. I like him. And again, remember, he was recruited to play cornerback, so he's still relatively new to figuring out the nuances of playing wide receiver. So once he figures it out, he could be great. But it's just one of those things where you'll need time, and some organizations don't always have that time. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to probably be on that day 3 and probably somewhere in that 5th round.
Yeah, I think if he gets the drops cleaned up, I think he definitely, because of what you talked about with the shiftiness in the open field. And, look, it's definitely valued when you can help a team on special teams, and we saw that throughout his career. So I think day 3 will probably be where he'll be at. Well, hey, Russell, thanks for stopping by with us, man. Tell everyone where they can check out the coverage here as they go throughout the weekend, and where you'll have that free draft guide for them next year whenever that time rolls around.
Yeah, so, the best place to find me is on Twitter, @RussNFLDraft. That's where I pin my draft guide when I release it, and this year that's exactly what I did. So if you find me on there, smash the follow button and just scroll down a little bit. You'll see it pinned to the profile. Of course, you can see all my written content and video, audio content over at cover1.net. You can find me tonight on Sirius XM Radio with the Mag Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meager and the rap radio and all that stuff for his show. And we're going to be doing some live NFL draft coverage for tonight. So be sure to tune in. And outside of that, it's pretty much Twitter @RussNFLDraft.
All right. Hey, man, I'll definitely be listening to you on Sirius XM. Hopefully you'll be talking about some of the guys that we just talked about on here, hearing their names called. And, we'll definitely be talking to you down the line, man. Great stuff talking to you. We're going to have to probably be talking to you next year about Sam Howell at some point. He'll probably be talking before day 2. We'll be talking before day 1 to make sure that we get some talking about him. So we look forward to it. Thanks for stopping by with us, man. Take care and keep up the great work, brother.
So we want to thank Russell Brown for stopping by with us. Make sure that you guys go check out all of his great content on his Twitter page @RussNFLDraft on Twitter. And, of course, tune in to that special show that they're doing tonight on Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM. That should be a fun one there to break down the NFL draft. So that wraps it up for this edition of the Heel Tough Blog podcast. Again, guys, head over to the website, as we always tell you, HeelToughBlog.com. We've got some stuff that's going to be going up about these guys as they get drafted, their fits in their new location. And then there's some great stuff also that we'll be doing here as we have wrapped up spring camp. Now we're heading into the summer, but there's still some great articles that we'll be putting out. There'll, of course, be some news on the recruiting trail that we'll be following throughout the summer. As, again, most of you guys know, the recruiting dead period has been lifted as of June. That'll be when guys will be able to go back on campus, take official visits. A lot of Tar Heel prospects already sort of lining those visits up. Some have already set them in stone, including some really big targets, such as 2022 four-star safety Jake Pope, who will be on campus later on this year, or later on this summer, I should say. And then 2024 four-star tight end Keaton... 2022 four-star Jake Pope, and many other major targets. So make sure that you guys are checking out the website for all of that. Also on the website, we've had you covered through everything that has gone on with the Tar Heel basketball program. since the end of the season, as they've made the transition from Roy Williams to Hubert Davis. They've went through some of their ups and downs through the transfer portal. We've had you covered on all those fronts. Josh Marlowe has done a great job on that front of keeping you guys up to date on everything that is going on around Tar Heel basketball, and that's all on the website. As for the podcast, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so that you can get all of the latest editions in your podcast player. That's what happens when you hit that subscribe button. Rating and reviewing, we would really appreciate that. That would help us to continue to move up some of those rankings when it comes to the ranking of the Tar Heel podcast. That will allow people who search Tar Heel podcast, anything like that, in any of these major Tar Heel or any major podcasting areas, I should say, to track down the podcast and listen to some great editions that we're going to have for you over the next couple of weeks and months as we take you throughout the rest of the off season. So also make sure you check out the sister podcast, which covers the basketball team. No longer the Roy's Boys podcast. It is instead the Four Corners podcast. So make sure that you guys check that out. Since the rebranding of the name after Roy Williams, of course, retired, it has gone very, very smoothly. And we have you guys to thank for that. So thank you guys so much for all of that. Helping us, through that transition into the new name of the podcast. But you guys have stuck along with us. We've even added some people along the way, it seems. So really, really excited for that, for the Four Corners podcast going forward. And again, you can find that on all your major podcast platforms, just like where you can find this edition of the podcast and the Heel Tough Blog podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any of those. You can track it down. Best place to find everything that we just talked about all in one central location is the Facebook page. Go to Facebook, type in Heel Tough Blog, and you can pull it up right there. Make sure that you like and follow the page, so that'll give you notifications anytime that an article is posted. It'll go right onto your timeline. You'll be able to read all of the latest, listen to all of the latest, all in one spot. So that does it for this edition of the podcast. Again, want to thank Russell Brown for stopping by with us. Want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.